me talk to you for a second about agendas. Not that stupid, worthless BS they put in the news. I'm talking about the stuff that matters. If you don't get what I mean, let me just take you somewhere. Just for a second, imagine you're at your office job during lunch break. Everyone's chilling in the break room, having fun discussing their weeks, how much their boss annoys them, and the NBA games of the past week. It's all good, all fun. Everybody's seen this before. But suddenly, somebody accidentally utters one of the forbidden words in the office. LeBron James. Just the mere mention of his name turns the conversation, and you can feel the energy shift. The customary, "Oh, he's great, but he's no MJ." Then, MJ never came back from no 3-1. MJ never got the 3-1. All of a sudden, the animosity changes until the entire lunch break devolves into a gender war with people starting to scream at each other. "We down with the 90s, that's a plumber's era. Jordan got no left hand." If MJ and LeBron teams and no hand checks, he'd have 9 rings. How you get scared of Jason Terry? You can't go up there and say you're the GOAT. It's turning into a real battlefield out here. It's getting so bad that poor intern who has no idea what goes on in the NBA is shaking and almost crying, huddled in the corner. Finally, he breathes a sigh of relief when he sees that supervisor walk in. Oh, surely he's gonna stop this. Right up until that supervisor pulls on his Fighting Irish jersey and starts a glaze session that will put Mia Khalifa to shame. Now, what you've just been a part of, whether you were the strongest soldier or a retreating bystander, is one of the oldest forms of the agenda war, the LeBron and MJ debate. This particular debate involves two men that both exist in a completely objective space where you can quantify exactly how good or bad someone is at the sport they play. Like, for example, it's pretty easy to tell that James Harden is better than Tony Snell. And yet, even in this space where we have literally boiled down exactly how valuable each person is with exact numbers and statistics, in the end, well, none of that matters. When players start being comparable, suddenly you can just throw that shit out the window. Those numbers I just brought up? Well, with enough good old-fashioned torture, statistics will tell you any story you want to hear. And is there real-life footage of both of these men playing the sport? Brilliant! Now you can cut up any video to make your opponent look hilariously stupid, bad, and dumb, and your side look immaculately good, brilliant, and wonderful. With no way to actually prove which one is better beyond a shadow of a doubt, both sides are now resorting to information wars of propaganda, trying to dunk the other's argument face first into the toilet. They've been doing this for decades. And I regret to inform you, it's not going anywhere. Now, I'm aware that some of you may not even really watch basketball, so you might not get the full scope of just how fucking big this argument really gets. Now, if you don't, I invite you to walk into a barbershop, sports bar, wherever middle-aged or older men gather, and just ask which side everyone's on, and see for yourself. But either way, even if you don't recognize this, I know for a fact you know at least one shit-fleeing contest that ends up exactly like this. In fact, usually it's worse, because a lot of things just don't have the objective measures that even basketball has. But don't get too caught up in that. I'm just using this as an example of how stupid this all gets. The agenda war is like poison in the well for a lot of discussions, because it just starts feeding on everything else like a parasite before overtaking what used to be regular discussions about something. As you can see by the state of the break room post-agenda war, these scenarios can turn a civil and friendly conversation quickly into something far more sinister. And it's not just unpleasant talking about it either, because as the poison sinks deeper, suddenly you aren't even able to enjoy it without tying it to the agenda. Now you just gotta have a checklist open and start taking notes about whatever supports what you're talking about. And even when something counteracts your agenda, you gotta peel over it and obsess it in order to make sure you make the most ridiculous stretch of logic to make it in your favor. And actually, don't even worry about enjoying whatever it is you were enjoying. Just get all your info from shitty Twitter accounts and secondhand YouTube videos. You need more time to form your agenda after all. You are now an instrument of the agenda, the strongest soldier. The only thing that matters now is winning arguments about things that you pretend to enjoy. Now, to get a different example, let's shift and talk about Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm gonna be talking about the manga here, and I'm aware that a lot of people want spoiler alert, so here's a spoiler alert, but Honestly, this shit is so unavoidable that I'm not really gonna bother going spoiler free. Y'all see them leaks whether you like them or not, and if you don't, bitch, keep watching anyway. Get yourself spoiled. Go buy yourself a lottery ticket. You need that luck somewhere else, buddy. But anyway, the big fight, Gojo versus Sukuna. This been set up for years. Strongest sorcerers fighting each other. Finally, this shit's about to go nuclear. Aura off the charts on this one. And you know what? That fight delivered. I don't care what you say. This is real fucking hoops over here. And seeing the numbers this fight was pulling every week, I think some people agreed with me. You know, that fight was getting so big, trying to avoid people talking about this fight was like trying to avoid the broke jokes after you pull out an Android. You know, we don't care about the facts. You're just gonna hear about it over and over and over and over and over again anyway. Now, of course, you're gonna see all the jokes flying around like Fraud Kuna, Gojo over, Maharaga Sebi, all that shit had their time. But you know, you look closely enough at some of these, you start to notice not all of it's jokes. Because if you're tapped in at least a little bit with the series and its fans, you know that that pretty boy over there has his own very dedicated fans. And in their eyes, this one single boy compels them to watch the entire series all because of him. And you know, some of these people have legitimately stacked their entire enjoyment of the series based on whether or not Gojo was able to just solo clear everything by himself. And you know, I hate to be a wet blanket here, but this ain't solo leveling. You know, if you ever read a shonen before, you know that the sensei character ain't never beaten the main villain. That's just how the shit go down. Yeah, he had a cute little run, but bam, dead. And of course, the story moves on after that. You know, it has to. But just like the South after losing that civil war, these Gojo fans would not let that shit go. Now that Daddy's actually dead, the manga that these people have centered their whole personality and identity around this entire time, well, they decided it's actually garbage the whole time because their character got put in the dirt and rolled into an old-fashioned pipe by an ice day and passed to the big boss. Not a great look for the fans, and a worse look for the biggest agenda in the community. But when one falls, 10 will take its place. The Gojo faction being eliminated didn't scatter the agenda pushers like you'd think. It just revealed that everybody else in the shadows were secretly pushing their own agendas for their own different characters. Now, because of direct competition, all these factions now have to try to murder each other. Anytime something happens, regardless of from who and what it actually is, any kind of power statement creates a visceral reaction because it could be used to push any kind of agenda you want. Because remember, you torture something long enough and it'll start to fit your agenda. And if it don't fit your agenda the way you like, don't worry. You can always just start screaming out about bullshit that Gege Akutami is pulling shit out his ass, that they aren't supposed to be that strong, that they aren't supposed to be that weak, all things that may or may not be true. But hold on a second. Take a step back and think. You think these guys for 1 second are actually paying attention to the story that they're supposedly reading? You know, the only time they go back and reread things isn't just to, you know, refresh themselves or see something new. It's to go back and find props for their agendas and weapons to form against their enemy agendas. They just peruse leaks so they can parade a false narrative with pages they don't fully understand. Long ago, the true agenda pushers have forgotten almost everything else about the story. Like, I'm sure they could tell me every single principle of Hakari's cursed energy. But turn around and ask them about the character unrelated to the agenda at the current moment. They'll probably freeze up. And that's the biggest issue I got with agenda pushers as a whole. You know, you'd think they were running sports books with how much these asshats cared about the results here. If you think about everything like eating at a 5-star dinner table, full buffet and everything, it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. 5 stars. These guys, they're not really interested in anything at all besides the little french fry platter they got out for kids, grabbing some ketchup packets. You know, it's a comfortable dish, but it don't have any meat on it, don't have any substance, pause. But they're just missing on everything else just by hyper-fixating on one thing. Now, don't get it twisted. I don't really care how you talk about your shows or anything. I wouldn't scream at a kid just for eating the jello at a Chinese buffet for 2 hours. But if you want anyone to take you seriously, maybe you should start understanding half the shit that comes out of your mouth. And if you do the whole introspection, think about all that dumb shit you're saying, and really look inward, and decide to keep it pushing with full knowledge of what you sound like and everything, well, hey, if you're funny, you'll probably get some motion anyway.